Alright, I'm gonna go live. Oh, I'm already live. How about that? My microphone's live. Hey everybody, Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where I rushed from Bojangles with my team. We're kind of having a meeting about Home Movie Day tomorrow, which is going to be in Durham, and we're going to be doing some training during our show, which you don't get to see, but anyways, I then realized I had forgotten to set up my show. I thought I had more films available, so sorry about starting late. Here's a story about Ping. Enjoy.
The Story About Ping by Marjorie Flack and Kurt Wiese. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful young duck named Ping. Ping lived with his mother and his father, and 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and 11 aunts and 7 uncles, and 42 cousins. Their home was a boat with 2 wise eyes on the Yangtze River. Each morning as the sun rose from the east, Ping and his mother and his father and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and his 42 cousins all marched, one by one, down a little bridge to the shore of the Yangtze River. All day long they would hunt for snails and little fishes and other pleasant things to eat. But in the evening, as the sun set in the west, "La la la la," the master of the boat would call. Quickly, Ping and all his many family would come scurrying. Quickly they would march, one by one, up over the little bridge and onto the wise-eyed boat, which was their home on the Yangtze River. Ping was always careful. Be very careful not to be last, because the last duck to cross over the bridge always got a spank on the back. But one afternoon, as the shadows grew long, Ping did not hear the call, because at that moment, Ping was wrong side up, trying to catch a little fish. By the time Ping was right side up, his mother and his father and his aunts were already marching, one by one, up over the bridge. By the time Ping neared the port, and his cousins were marching over. And by the time Ping reached the shore, the last of Ping's 42 cousins had crossed the bridge. Ping knew he would be the very last duck if he crossed the bridge. Ping did not want to be spanked, so he hid. Ping hid behind the grasses, and as the dark came and the moon shone in the sky, Ping watched the wise-eyed boat slowly sail away down the Yangtze River. All night long of the river, with his head blown on the Yangtze River. There was no father or mother, no sisters or brothers, no aunts or uncles, and no 42 cousins to go fishing with Ping. So Ping started out to find them, swimming down the yellow waters of the Yangtze River. As the sun rose higher in the sky, boats came. There were big boats, and there were little boats. There were fishing boats, and there were beggars' boats. There were houseboats, and there were raft boats. And all these boats had eyes to see with, but nowhere could Ping see the wise-eyed boat, which was his home. Then came a boat full of strange, dark fishing birds. Ping saw them diving for fish for their master. As each bird brought a fish to his master, he would give it a little piece of fish for pay. Closer and closer swooped the fishing birds near Ping. Now Ping could see shining rings around their necks. Rings of metal made so tight the birds could never swallow the big fish they were catching. Swoop, splash, splash. The ringed birds were dashing here and there all about Ping. So down he ducked and swam under the yellow waters of the Yangtze River. When Ping came up to the top of the water, far away from the fishing birds, he found little crumbs floating, tender little rice cake crumbs, which made a path to a houseboat. As Ping ate these crumbs, he came nearer and nearer to the houseboat. Then, splash! There in the water was a boy. A little boy with a barrel on his back, which was tied to a rope from the boat, just as all boat boys on the Yangtze River are tied to their boats. In the boy's hand was a rice cake. "Ow!" cried the little boy, and up dashed Ping and snatched at the rice cake. Quickly, the boy grabbed Ping and held him tight. Ping and the boy made such a splashing and such a noise that the boy's father came running, and the boy's mother came running, and the boy's sister and brother came running, and they all looked over the edge of the boat at Ping and the boy splashing in the water of the Yangtze River. Then the boy's father and mother pulled at the rope, which was tied to the barrel on the little boy's back, and the boy's sister and brother pulled. They pulled and they pulled, and up came Ping and the boy onto the houseboat. "Ah, a duck dinner has come to us," said the boy's father. "I will cook him with rice at sunset tonight," said the boy's mother. "No, no, my nice duck is too beautiful to eat," cried the boy. But down came a basket all over Ping, and he could see no more of the boy or the boat or the sky or the beautiful yellow water of the Yangtze River. All day long, Ping could see only the thin lines of sun which shone through the cracks in the basket, and Ping was very sad. After a long while, Ping heard the sound of oars and felt the jerk, jerk, jerk of the boat as it was rowed down the Yangtze River. Soon the lines of sunshine which came through the cracks of the basket turned rose color, and Ping knew the sun was setting in the west. Ping heard footsteps coming near to him. The basket was quickly lifted, and the little boy's hands were holding Ping. Quickly, quietly, the boy dropped Ping over the side of the boat, and Ping slipped into the water, the beautiful yellow water of the Yangtze River. Then Ping heard this call. "La la la!" Ping looked, and there near the bank of the river was the wise-eyed boat which was Ping's home. And Ping saw his mother and his father and his aunts, all marching one by one up over the little bridge. Swiftly Ping turned and swam, paddling towards the shore. Now Ping could see his uncles marching one by one. Paddle, paddle, Ping hurried towards the shore. Ping saw his cousins marching one by one. Paddle, paddle, Ping neared the shore. But as Ping reached the shore, the last of Ping's 42 cousins marched over the bridge, and Ping knew that he was late again. But up marched Ping, up over the little bridge, and spank came the spank on Ping's back. Then at last, Ping was back with his mother and his father, and 2 sisters, and 3 brothers, and 7 uncles and 42 cousins. Home again on the wise-eyed boat on the Yangtze River.
Oh, Ping. So that film is what we call an iconographic film, in that it was not animated. The camera would move around, would zoom in, out, and it would use the original artwork from the book. And so this was a technique that was made by this company called Weston Woods. Morton Schindel did that. And eventually he started incorporating animation in his stuff. And one of the most amazing films that they made was Where the Wild Things Are. That was animated by Gene Deitch. So good. Anyways, yeah. But it's a good story. Definitely made by white people trying to figure out what's going on in China. All right, let's learn about the Doppler effect. Enjoy.
Given a series of regularly spaced objects, each moving with the same constant speed in a straight line toward a fixed point, how many objects arrive per unit of time? Or what is the frequency of arrival? Suppose each object moves with the speed u. Then in 1 unit of time,
All right, looks like we're back. So Simon & Schuster took over Weston Woods, and that's why they stopped that stream. Let's go back to the beginning of Doppler Effect. Enjoy.
given a series of regularly spaced objects, each moving with the same constant speed in a straight line toward a fixed point, how many objects arrive per unit of time? Or what is the frequency of arrival? Suppose each object moves with the speed u. Then in 1 unit of time, each object moves a distance u. If the spacing between objects is lambda, the number of objects included within the distance u is u divided by lambda. Thus, the frequency of arrival is u over lambda. If for any reason the speed becomes greater, the spacing remaining the same, the frequency of arrival will be greater. On the other hand, if the spacing becomes smaller, the speed remaining the same, the frequency of arrival will again be greater. An important application of these ideas is provided by a phenomenon known as the Doppler effect. A vibrating source, vibrating with a single frequency, sends out longitudinal waves in the surrounding medium. The pitch of the sound heard by a listener depends on the frequency with which the waves strike the ear. Suppose the source and the listener are at rest with each other. The waves travel with speed u, and the source vibrates with frequency f0. The spacing of these waves is the wavelength lambda 0, where lambda 0 equals u over f0, or f0 equals u over lambda 0. As we have seen, the number of waves arriving at the ear per unit of time is the speed divided by the spacing, which is the frequency f0 of the source itself. In this case, therefore, there is no change of pitch, since the rate at which waves are sent out by the source is the same as the rate at which they arrive at the ear. This is true only when the source and the listener are at rest with respect to each other. The frequency of arrival of waves at the ear, which determines pitch, will differ from the frequency of the vibrating source if the source or the listener should move. This change of pitch is called the Doppler effect. If the source moves toward the listener, the waves become spaced closer together. When the source moves away from the listener, the waves are farther apart. The speed of the waves is independent of the motion of the source. Once the waves have left the source, they don't know what the source is doing. The waves still travel with speed u, but their spacing depends on the speed of the source and the direction of motion of the source. When the source moves toward the listener with the speed vs, the relative speed of the waves with respect to the source is the speed of the waves, u, minus the speed of the source, vs. Thus, the spacing of the waves, lambda, is u minus vs divided by the frequency of the source, f0. Since the frequency of arrival at the ear is u over lambda, by introducing this value of lambda, we get for the apparent frequency, f, this expression. When the source moves away from the listener with the speed vs, the speed of the waves with respect to the source is u plus vs. The spacing of the waves, lambda, is then u plus vs divided by the frequency of the source, f0. Substituting this expression for lambda, we get this value for the apparent frequency. Thus, the pitch is higher when the source moves toward the listener, and lower when the source moves away from the listener. Now, if the listener moves toward or away from the source, the spacing of the waves, lambda 0, is the same as in the normal case. The motion of the listener has no effect on the wavelength, but the frequency of arrival of the waves at the ear is changed. If the listener advances toward the source, the relative speed of the waves with respect to the listener is the speed of the waves, u, plus the speed of the listener, vl, and the frequency of arrival at the ear, f, equals plus vl over lambda 0. Since lambda 0 equals u over f0, we get f equals f0 times u plus vl over u. If the listener moves away from the source with a speed vl, the speed of the waves with respect to the listener is U minus VL, and F then equals F0 times U minus VL over U. A familiar example of the Doppler effect is the drop in pitch that accompanies the passing of a rapidly moving train. Another example of the Doppler effect may be experienced by the engineer on the train as he passes a road signal.
All right, there it is, the Doppler effect. I know there's a lot of questions, but my question is, how great a flame? Enjoy.
Until I, an American who hopes one day, God willing, to become a Methodist preacher, began a new experience at the Methodist Central Hall in London, I couldn't tell what their church meant to British Methodists. I knew only what Methodism meant to me. But with the experience that began with my meeting Dr. Sangster, minister of the Central Hall, I came to learn at least what their church ought to mean to British Methodists. My own Methodism took on a greater significance and value. I began to see with increasing clarity how great was the heritage I shared in through the fellowship of faith which is Methodism. I found myself in Bristol, the horse fair. With the 100,000 Methodist chapels throughout the world I'd heard of and the 13,000 in Britain, I wanted to see where it all began, this great religious fellowship of which I grow so proud to be a member. The new room in the horse fair, John Wesley called it. No Methodist, and surely no Christian, could look on this, the oldest Methodist shrine in the world, without reverence and awe. From this plain and simple yet lovely fane, with its gallery and high pulpit, sprang one of the greatest religious organizations, one of the greatest Christianizing forces the world has seen. How much is here to remind us of John Wesley and the noble work for God he here began, and even of the dangers he faced. The pulpit from which he and his brother preached daily. The communion table, still in use, at which they observed the sacrament of the Lord's Supper with hundreds of communicants every Sunday. And the clock that then recorded, as it still records, the passing hours. There are no windows on the ground floor, no direct way from the ground floor to the pulpit. A reminder, perhaps, of how often preachers and congregations in the new room were exposed to the of an unthinking, riotous mob, as when, in 1788, he then 84 years old, John Wesley in this building denounced the slave trade as the most execrable of villainies. It was in this little room that the second conference of the people called Methodists was held in 1745. 11 people were present. In 1771, Francis Asbury, the great apostle of American Methodism, was dedicated and sent on his mission to the New World. These old houses now, they must have looked down on John Wesley as he preached in the open air. Just as today they look down on the statue of his brother Charles, preaching. These are the original doors, and you see the old poor box with its copper plates still attached. 2 months after he had first preached in the open air, so beginning the evangelical revival of the 18th century, John Wesley laid the foundation stone, and in June of that same year, the original one-story building was opened. 2,500 people gathering about it to hear John Wesley preach. In 1748, the new room was rebuilt to its present height and otherwise enlarged. This is the only building existing which spans the whole of John Wesley's evangelical mission. In the 50 years of his far journeying and mighty labors in his master's cause, Wesley spent more time in the chapel and his rooms upstairs than anywhere else. The common room, in which he and the preachers he taught shared their simple meals. John Wesley's study. With the bust of him by Enoch Wood, which Wesley considered the best likeness of himself ever made. And off the study, the tiny bedroom where more than once he lay sick and near to death. At the small desk sloping from the windowsill, Wesley wrote many of his famous and innumerable letters. In this, surely in all its simplicity, one of the greatest Christian shrines, how deeply must the mind and heart of the Methodist, or of any believer, be stirred. To that borrowed light in the cupola, overlooking the chapel pulpit, John Wesley would sometimes steal from his work to listen to the preachers of his teaching. So much to awaken recollections and to stir the imagination. The chair in which at Winchelsea, shortly before his death, being too feeble to stand, the devoted old man sat to preach his last sermon in the open air. Seeking inspiration, I sat in it, asking what John Wesley, could he speak, would say to his followers of the present day. And it seemed to me
You think, young soldier, that for this world of yours, so different from that in which I had earthly being, the Christian's task and message must be different too.
That was my thought, sir.
Is it not manifest? How manifest in the years just past that hatred and malice still exist? Are all men pure of heart, seeking only God and his righteousness?
Sir.
Then, as the evil still exists, so does the need of salvation. The Christian task and message remain the same in their simplicity. Tell the glad tidings of salvation. Preach perfect love. Call all men to that holiness without which none shall see the Lord. Convict man of sin. Point him to a Savior.
That was a message you, sir, carried all over England.
I and my brethren, and under God, whom I humbly thank, it saved the England of our day.
I believe, sir, it still is the one message to save our sorely stricken world.
Believe that, young soldier, and you will win many victories for Christ. Be compassionate as your God is compassionate. Give succor to the poor, the sick, and the friendless stranger. Make your Christianity practical, as here, from this room, we made it practical. But while you and the brethren in your far country unite with the brethren in this, and with Methodists the world over, to relieve avoidable distresses and to right social wrongs, beware of too absorbed an interest in the material things of life that pass away. For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost. Love ye one another in the love of Christ. Farewell.
And there was the little stable where John Wesley and his first preachers put up their horses. Simple, but with the practical simplicity that made John Wesley great. God's highwayman. Who called you that, John Wesley? Whoever it was, he named you aptly. You, with your 5,000 miles a year on horseback for 40 years, with your Bible in hand, making men and women stand and deliver their hearts to God.
Woo! Yeah, so this was from that library of religious films that we have. Okay. Next film, brought to our fine folks at Jam Handy and General Motors, who are going to talk to us about farming in the United States. Enjoy.
Somewhere, with someone on the job, everything we have is started. Somewhere, on some fertile acre, the plow knifes through soil that abounds in promise. And the farmer, although he plows alone, is not alone. His life is tied in with the lives of many others, of all of us who depend on him and on his mechanized labors. And he, in turn, depends on all of us. Somewhere on a lonely range, the earth trembles under the hooves of cattle on the move. And the man who rides the range alone, if he listens with vision, can hear in the rumble of the herd the beginnings of the rumble of distant machinery in the factories where others will finish the work he has begun. Somewhere, someone sets a blast to erupt rich ores of metal from stubborn rock, and sets men to work in smelter and in blast furnace, in mill and in factory. And thereafter, people, many interdependent people, come to fashion the products of human inventiveness from all the bounty of nature. Wheat. And to grow the wheat, it takes a farmer. From New York to Michigan, to Nebraska to Oregon, and from the Dakotas down through all the great grain belt, 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000 wheat farmers grow the finest of wheat. Raw material for industrial alcohols, for fine finishes. Sugar, and to grow sugar, the sugar farmer. In the bottomlands of Mississippi and the Everglades of Florida, on the Delta and in the Evangeline country, grows the sugar cane. Cane sugar, raw material for carbon and lampblack, for solvents. Cotton, and the farmer to grow the cotton. Raw material for fabrics and for lacquers and for plastics. In the Carolinas, in Georgia, Tennessee, and Arkansas, Alabama, throughout the Old South, and even in the Deep South, cotton still is king. In Texas, too, and now in California, there's a great snowy harvest. Cartload by cartload and bale upon bale, as far as the eye can see. Cotton for fabrics and wool for fabrics. On the slopes of the Sierras, a sheep herder. He grazes his flock in the high, cool air that builds thicker, longer, finer, stronger fleeces on milling backs. Mohair goats roam the plains of Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico, where all the silken fleece is tempered by baking days and toughened by freezing nights. Fine fleece of the sheep flock and long stapled fleece of the mohair goats for fine upholstery. Tough hides for tough, durable leather, and it takes tough, durable men to ride the herds to grow those hides to harvest. From the Oxbow to the Laramie, all along the Red River and the Rio Grande, 1,000, 10,000 outflung herds. With sun and with wind, with rain and with sand as her tools, with heat and with cold, nature burnishes and strengthens hide and hair on the open range from Dodge City to the foothills of the western mountains. Perhaps there are jobs you never thought of as being an important part of the great American economy pattern. But every basic task is essential to the necessity and convenience of all in this blessed land of all of us. West or south, no matter where you go or what you are looking for, you'll find somebody working. Working as a part of the vast and intricate and interlocking network of production that leads the raw material to finished product. The turpentine barrel in Florida and in Georgia is the first link in an endless conveyor belt that winds its way from south or east to west and north, from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. In the oil fields of all America, there is a man-made tree that grows, a deep-rooted tree that is to yield a strange assortment of fruits which will be soap and candles, paints and asphalts. From its roots, thousands of feet in the earth, the oil well rig brings forth the harvest of precious sap that is to become a polish and a lubricant and a coloring and a fuel. In the giant test tubes and apparatus of the refineries, the oil crudes here are cracked and distilled. Here are cleaned and purified. Here are separated and sorted into 100 basic materials where 1,000 interdependent industries and 1,000 times 1,000 interdependent workers, managers, and engineers. On the job, commanding great tools, from deep within the plentiful earth come the metal ores with which America is so richly blessed. Copper for bearings and copper for batteries. Copper for radiators and for electrical systems. Copper from Utah and Montana, from Michigan and Wyoming, from Colorado and New Mexico, from Idaho and Arizona and Nevada. And again, more of the red gold metal from Washington and Oregon. This red, powdery earth is rust. Call it iron ore, call it ferric oxide. It is the touchstone that has magically transformed a civilization. In the raw red earth of Hibbing on the Mesabi, the Clinton and Vermilion Ranges, steel has its beginnings. The mother of steel is iron. There is more than a ton of iron and steel in the car you drive. Several kinds of iron and more than 100 kinds of steel. And from the rusting earth come the ores that are the beginnings of all that rich harvest of metals born of iron and sired by the coal that is mated with iron to make steels of many kinds. Soft coal, hard coal, and the coke that comes from coal to bring steel into being. To purify and refine the steels, coal and coke. To harden steel for roller bearings and for starter motor assemblies, fine molybdenum. To toughen steel in precision parts, fine vanadium. To shape and to polish precise mechanical parts, crystalline quartz. For alloy steels, for stainless steel, for plating bumpers and ornamental trim, bright chromium. For the tiny filaments in electric light bulbs, tungsten. For storage batteries, for radiator assemblies, and for the Babbitt metal in engine bearings, pure lead. And even the more famously precious metal, gold. Any metal can be more precious than gold if it is the one metal needed at the time. Each metal may depend on one or more of the others for successful use. Copper and aluminum are precious in themselves. And all these ores for all these many metals call for many men to dig them from the earth and bring them forth. Any natural lack or artificial shortage may stop the entire economic parade. You may be a lumberjack teamed up in Washington or Maine, in Mississippi or in Michigan, in Florida or Georgia or East Texas, in the Paul Bunyan country or the empire of the Pacific Northwest. The trees you fell and the logs you drive make pulp for paper to blueprint the dreams that put 100,000 men to work on a new model and a new job. The way we do it in America takes a lot of different people working together in a lot of different places. As all rivulets and brooks flow to make the river, so all the wondrous products of forest and ranch, mine and farm flow together. On highways of steel, the many raw materials move, contributions of every state in the Union. On highways of gravel and concrete, roll the basic supplies for the mills of industry. And on the high air lanes of the trackless skies, fly products to the factories for processing. In the textile mills of Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and the Carolinas, sheep wool and mohair are the beginnings of more interrelated jobs for men and for women. Spun by mechanical spiders into gleaming strands, cotton, sheep wool, and mohair are woven by incredibly precise mechanical fingers into luxury fabrics. Corn, the golden treasure of farmers in Iowa, Indiana, and Illinois, and corn of Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Nebraska. One way of changing corn into leather is on the sub-assembly line of the feeding lot, but a shorter way is through the magic of chemistry. Corn is now directly processed into the plastic ingredients of artificial leather. With these rich and glowing colors, the chemists improve on nature. Yard after endless yard of perfect and flawless material bears ingrained in its very structure the colors and designs that will enhance its beauty in the interior trim of the finest motor cars. The tire you ride on, born in a Mississippi cotton patch, in a cane field in Louisiana. Maybe it started when some of its strange synthetic makings were pumped up from the ground in California or boiled up from the earth in Texas. And in the factories of Detroit and Akron and Dayton, men weave and fashion the basic materials, cotton and rayon, sulfur and carbon, rubber from trees and rubber from oil wells. dripping, springing, live thing, resiliently spry and untiringly useful. Sand and flame make glass, but it takes skilled men to grind and polish glass to optical clarity for safety vision. And seeing to all of it, and then again seeing that the finished product is perfect for seeing, means yet another long chain of interdependent jobs from sandpit through factory. The processing of fine ores into finer steels for the finest of product brings into play a great range of facilities. The linkage of jobs to be done along the line is always and infinitely expanding. From flat stock and sheet metal, bar and rod and ingot, come the basic forms to be forged and pressed, to be cut, to be ground, and then polished into many thousands of interrelated but separate and individual parts in factories located along all the railways and highways of America. For the bumpers of your family car, steel from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and steel from Pittsburgh, California, join with the copper from Utah and chromium from Texas for beauty combined with massive protection. The handiwork of men in the mill and men in the smelter makes work for the hands of men in the casting and forging plants. Melted and cast into the cylinder block of the valve and head engine are the gray iron pigs. Here in gray iron are the tough settings for the bone structure of the finest transportation for all of us on all our roads and boulevards. What we harvest, what we dig, and what we produce roll into the work days and paydays and play days of all of us. Here, gleaming and precise, is a differential pinion gear. It took a miner to get it from the ground and a railroad man to carry it to the docks. A crew of merchant seamen cargoed the red dust to the blast furnaces. It took the chemist and the metallurgist to alloy and temper it before it could be shaped. Engineers designed it, using pencils made in Pennsylvania and slide rules from New York. To design and build the phenomenal machine tools to make the machines, it took men in other plants. To build these intricate and wonderful machines themselves took other skillful men in other factories. To guide and to use the machines takes more men with hands that are skilled and finely productive. Behind each such job is the mighty panorama of men at other jobs. All of us making a living and making a fine product for others and ourselves and our families. For all of us who run machines and for all of us who sell other things to other men who run machines. Gauges, to increase the powers of vision 1,000 times, to make the sense of touch so delicate that it can weigh a puff of smoke, to magnify the inch 1,000,000-fold. Gauges that are marvels of precision extend the senses of men in the countless comparisons, inspections, and tests that finalize the perfection of each working part. It takes supreme precision to give us the smooth and effortless driving that all of us want. But men and women, and only men and women, have the judgment to tell right from wrong, to separate the best from anything less than the best. Making sure we have done right by all the finest materials America can supply calls for a whole new category of excellence in service. Vigilance and devotion applied to the ideal of seeing that only the best passes inspection. In the factories, locally built, giving local employment in every great area of the nation. Each factory with its system of communications and intercommunications is in itself a part and portion of other factories, which begin where it ends or end where it starts, to fabricate or fashion or finish the fine products of the thousands of suppliers and the thousands of suppliers who supply those suppliers with all the parts of all the components that help to make up the complete automobile. Today's product of the superbly equipped plants is the life story of 10,000 engineers, with hundreds of supporting departments and thousands of supporting suppliers, completed by the master hands of 1 million factory men who inscribe all their ideas in metal. The careful and meticulous attention to every detail of quality and perfection has resulted in constantly improved performance, efficiency, and stamina through the years. That is the story told in the rhythm of the wondrously precise machines as they dance to the mastery of the worker's hands. Each of more than 17,000 parts must fit smoothly, accurately, rightly with some other part. And the men on the assembly lines know that each part will be there when it is needed, because someone plans it that way and manages it that way. The men on the assembly lines know that each material will be fitting and each part will fit, because someone builds it that way and someone checks it to see that it is that way. And so it is that in the finished motor car, 17,000 separate and individual parts are so well designed and so well combined, all to give us just the qualities we demand in our finest of transportation: the beauty and the comfort and the fine, long life performance with fine economy. From all the designs and all the plans, all the materials from all the processes, and all the parts made by all the skills of all the men and all the magic of all the machines, move through all the pageant of production in a great orchestration of interdependence, one upon another and another, into a fine climactic assembly of the finest products of all of us, for all of us, for all the farms and all the cities and towns of all our land. And the men who inspect the final product know that each part must be of perfection certified, quality first to last. The harvest of America's finest automobiles keeps rolling off the assembly lines year after year, every year finer and finer. The face of America has been changed. A factory is built out in the open country, and quickly a great city arises around it. Over broad highways made by and made for the automobile, what Americans have produced comes back to serve Americans. So it is that we can live in the country, work in the city. Life in America has changed. So it is that we can make our living on a farm and have a home in town. So it is that we can live where we want to. The shopping centers now come out to meet us. The ever-expanding involvement of people takes on a new dimension. The great new dimension of interrelated use. The new individual transportation means new freedom of movement to all of us, the dispelling of distance, and for country dwellers as for city dwellers, a new and far and wide range of life. New businesses, large and small, have developed from putting America on wheels. It has created more jobs for more people, all interdependent on each other. And all continue to profit from it in ever new ways in each new generation of youth. Putting America's children on wheels has changed our schools. It has made possible better education, has built for better training for tomorrow. And all will profit from it in health and wealth and recreation. Putting America's workers on wheels now means that there is more work within ready reach, more work for men to do, and more ways to get to the work and make more money. On the money somebody else makes, all of us are dependent for the harvest of money we make. In all America, the money we make on any job changes hands many times. And every time it changes hands, it benefits all of us. The miner and the farmer and the rancher, all producing the finest materials. The worker and the machine, all using the finest, the newest processes to do finely by those finest materials. Building the finest and the largest low-cost cars and trucks for everyone to haul anything, anywhere, and haul anyone, including ourselves. And so it is that all of us in interdependence live independently on wheels. And all this far-reaching interdependence is the great secret of why it is possible to put America's automobile within the reach of so many people. And all America, all its rock-bound beauty, all its pleasant vistas, all its historic shrines, and all its ways of living, all its sports and recreations, all its scenic grandeur along all its far-flung highways, within the reach of all.
All right, so we are still training over here for Home Movie Day tomorrow. If you are in the Triangle area, join us at the Durham Public Library, the main branch downtown, from noon to 3. And either if you've got some video or some home movies that you'd like digitized, we can talk to you about them and maybe show some, or maybe digitize some. It would be great to see you. If you don't, if you just want to play Home Movie Day Bingo, you can do that as well. Thanks so much for watching today. I'm sorry that Story of Ping was interrupted, but it's life. It's life under the tyrannical YouTube copyright hammer. But join us later. We'll be back on Monday. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, subscribe, super thanks, etc. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.